There we are. Who's ready and excited to talk about prophecy? Well, prophecy is an exciting thing to talk about. For some people, prophecy is confusing, or I should say, for most people. And for some people, prophecy is kind of whatever. There's a lot of different feelings about prophecy. It's hard not to. There's so much kind of wrapped up in prophecy. It's talking about the future, talking about often not very nice things, but sometimes the good things. There's a lot going on, and I want to try to encourage you today that regardless of where you start in your spirit about prophecy, I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible today. There have been people who have attempted over the years, over the ages, more accurately, to determine what each of these things means with varying degrees of certainty. And I want to say that they haven't all agreed. And in fact, most of the time, what they do is they interpret these things according to the landscape of their current history. Right? Like they have a certain amount of history that they're looking at, and they are trying to put the pieces together. But the truth is that a lot of history hasn't happened yet. It's actually it's not history; it's more like future history. So there's a lot that hasn't happened, and until it has, unfortunately, we're not going to have all the pieces to fully know what each of these things is. So, but I wanted to focus in on what we can know, right? What are the things that we can know? And I put in parentheses here from this text. I want to start specifically in chapter 7, okay? I know that there are a lot of things. If you could go to Revelation, if you could go to Philippians, and if you could go to Isaiah, and if you could go to Psalms, and if you go to all these other places, that you could probably compile some other things that you could think maybe I have some certainty about this, that, or the other thing. But I want to start before we get into any of that. I think we will get into some of that. I want to start with what can we know from this text. And we're also going to eventually talk about things we cannot know from this text. We're going to divide a lot of these things up into those two camps. So while we're reading, I want you to think about certainties in the text. And then we'll go through and make a list, and we'll come up with some things. Would two volunteers be willing to read? Someone's going to read chapter 7, verses 1 through 14. And then I'll read verses 15 and 16, maybe 17, I haven't decided yet. And then I'll have someone finish out the chapter. Would someone be willing to start? Chuck, you've got the microphone right in front of you, I think. And then if you wouldn't mind handing it off to whoever's next, that would be awesome. Okay, yeah.
1 through 14.
1 through 14, please.
In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head while on his bed. Then he wrote down the dream, telling the main facts. Daniel spoke, saying, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, each different from the other. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I watched till the wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And suddenly another beast, a second, like a bear. It was raised up on one side and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And they said thus to it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I looked, and there was another like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and a dominion was given to it. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little one, coming up among them, before whom 3 of the first horns were plucked out by the roots. And there, in this horn, were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous words. I watched till thrones were put in place, and the Ancient of Days was seated. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was a fiery flame, its wheels a burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. A thousand thousands ministered to him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the books were opened. I watched then because of the sound of the pompous words which the horn was speaking. I watched till the beast was slain, and its body destroyed and given to the burning flame. As for the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. I was watching in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Then to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom, the one which shall not be destroyed.
Very good. Verse 7, chapter 7, verse 15 says, As for me, Daniel, my spirit was distressed within me, and the visions in my mind kept alarming. I approached one of those who was standing by, if he can, asking him the exact meaning of all this. So he told me and made known to me the interpretation of these things. These great beasts, which are 4 in number, are 4 kings who will rise from the earth. But the saints of the highest one will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, for all of ages to come.
Then I desired to know the exact meaning of the fourth beast, which was different from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, with its teeth of iron and its claws of bronze, and which devoured, crushed, and trampled down the remainder with its feet. And the meaning of the 10 horns that were on its head, and the other horn which came up, and before which 3 of them fell, namely the horn which had eyes, and a mouth uttering great boasts, and which was larger in appearance than its associates. I kept looking, and that horn was waging war with the saints and overpowering them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was passed in favor of the saints of the highest one, and the time arrived when the saints took possessions of the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast will be a fourth kingdom on the earth, which will be different from all the other kingdoms, and will devour the whole earth and tread it down and crush it. As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings will arise, and another will arise after them, and he will be different from the previous ones, and will subdue 3 kings. He will speak out against the Most High and wear down the saints of the highest one, and he will intend to make alterations in times and in law, and they will be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. But the court will sit for judgment, and his dominion will be taken away, annihilated, and destroyed forever. Then the sovereignty, the dominion, and the greatness of all the kingdoms under the whole heaven will be given to the people of the saints of the highest one. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all the dominions will serve and obey him. At this point, the revelation ended. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts were greatly alarming me, and my face grew pale, but I kept the matter to myself.
Thank you. So let's first focus on Daniel. We hear from him in 3 different places. One's at the beginning, in the middle, in verse 15 through 18, and then at the end, verse 28. What are some things that we can observe and understand about Daniel? Some saw disturbed him. This is honestly one of the more humanizing passages about Daniel. You can often read about chapter 1 and chapter 2 and chapter 4 and chapter 5 and 6, and Man, Daniel's this like superhero Christian. Like, man, does anything shake him? Does anything, um, you know, make him question or even, but he seems like this is something that was very substantive. And you ever woken up from a dream and it just shook you, like really to your core? Like, um, I woken up just a few times from a dream that was very vivid, very powerful, and physically, I'm like breathing heavy and I'm sweating a little bit, and I'm like, wow, that was terrifying. And I think that that's the experience that he's had here. It was not a restful night, so to speak. It was probably quite alarming. Probably all of the pictures and anything that we could uh, come up with to visualize this would be insufficient. Um, these were great beasts, and the visualizing of it all was shaking him. And another thing that I think is interesting, and I can't wait to really talk about this. This is kind of funny to me. Um, in verse 15, his spirit is distressed within him. He asks for one standing by to give him an explanation. The one standing by, we don't know. And I am going to hold fast to what I said before and only go from this text. So we don't know who it is. We might get a clue to that later. But the person who is explaining it to him starts very simply to explain. It says that these great beasts, in verse 17 and 18, these great beasts, which are four in number, are four kings, will rise over from the earth, but the saints of the highest one will receive the kingdom, possess the kingdom forever, for all the ages to come. And it seems as though that is pretty much all he's going to say on the matter. And then Daniel does what? Wait a minute. And then I desire to know the exact meaning of the fourth beast. Wait a minute. I wish that was different from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, with its teeth of iron and claws of bronze, and which devoured and crushed and trampled down under, and there was nothing remaining under his feet. And the meaning of the 10 horns, what are those about? And the head of the horn which was came up, and what he's just kind of like, wait a minute, there's so much going on here. You didn't unpack hardly any of it. And finally, this person relents and they say, okay, in verse 23, thus he said, the fourth beast will be the fourth king, be a fourth kingdom on earth. And he explains a little bit more. And then thankfully, we have Daniel on our behalf to say, wait a minute, we have a little bit more explanation. And unfortunately, even the explanation is somewhat vague. We don't get all the, there's a time and a time and half a time, and there's, the kingdom that came up after was not like the one before. Well, that's helpful. Like, what are we doing here? Like, we're okay. That's what we know. Yep, that's what we know, pretty much. So I'm giving up a few things. I have a cheat sheet here because I did a study already, and I came up with some things you can know. I'm going to hand them out later if you want them, but I want you to start by just thinking through the visions. Now we talked about Daniel a little bit. Think through the vision now, and what is there? What can you know? Try really hard, like I say, to stay within this text, and also to not even if it's something super simple, try not to go beyond what you absolutely can say for certain from the text. Anna, you want to start?
Sure. In the words of in my after school kids, there's a lot of crazy beasts in the Bible.
Crazy beast. And we know there's a lion with wings, and then there's a bear with bones in his mouth, like ribs, so to speak. And then leopard with 4 heads and 4 wings, and then a greater, more terrible beast with horns, 10 horns, and then 1 horn is greater, and that's a lot. That's crazy, Jeannie, you have something else?
Yeah, I was just going to say in the very beginning, we know it was really, really windy because the sea was stirred up and these things were coming out of the sea. So it must have been beautiful.
The winds blew and they came up rose out of the sea. Yeah, that's very good. They were different from one another. Good observation. Some of them have a little bit more detail than others. right? We know about the lion and what happened to him. What happened to his wings? They were plucked off. Okay, so that's interesting. And what about the bear? What do we know about it? Other than the ribs, which I already mentioned.
It was devouring a lot of things.
Who is a devourer for sure? There's one other thing that's kind of peculiar about him. Memory serves. He's kind of up on one side, isn't he? Does it say that? He's raised up on one side, and he's got bones in his mouth, and he's devouring like nobody's business. Okay. So then the that that's a little off, but you know what's even more crazy? 4 heads. 4 heads and 4 wings. Why 4 heads? We don't know. It's as simple as it gets. We don't know. Then the last one seems to have, even with all the peculiarities of those first 3, the last one has Daniel's attention. This one is the one who's trotting, right? He's walking, and everything underfoot is being absolutely demolished, and it says it like 3 or 4 different ways, right? Like everything is being completely obliterated in its path. What else do we know?
Yeah, iron teeth.
An iron teeth, kind of odd,
Yes.
but severe. What else do we know? And horns,
Moving away from the beast to the Ancient of Days.
Ancient of Days. What do we know?
You know that he's high, lifted up, and sovereign over everything that's being said.
Absolutely. What's a little bit of the description that we get of his throne?
He's got a white goatee. No. You've got hair of pure wool
Hair of pure wool.
and eyes of flaming fire. Oh, maybe I took that from somewhere else. The throne was ablaze with flames.
That's true. And the wheels were on fire too. That's pretty striking. You know what? It's interesting. Like even as striking as the throne of God, he still is like, well, what about that beast? What is going on with him? That beast was probably pretty stark in his memory. We know about the throne of God. What else do we know?
It's the throne.
Well, one of the one is it says is the highest one, the one most high. What about him? What does he receive?
Talking about the one that's like a son of man.
I'm thinking of verse 18, but I think the later, yes, it'll be mentioned about the Son of Man. But yes, both are true. What does it say about him?
Of the son of man.
Yeah,
Because
go
he
ahead.
is, he actually has the ability to come up to the Ancient of Days, which is just in itself is an amazing thing. And that he was given dominion, glory, and the kingdom over all peoples, nations, and every man of every language.
Absolutely.
Served him.
And what happens then to the other kingdoms? Yeah, they are destroyed. Okay, so we have some things that we clarified, and I'm gonna take you through just a couple of the things that I looked at. Multiple kingdoms. So these are about the rise of the nature of kingdoms. Multiple kingdoms rise in succession. These kingdoms gain immense power and dominion. Their rule involves conquest, devouring and trampling others. Their dominion is temporary and ultimately removed. The final kingdom described is uniquely powerful and more terrifying than the others. And leadership within that kingdom divides into multiple rulers. So we also have some things about the saints. We didn't mention much about the saints. The saints suffer oppression under earthly rulers. See that in 21 and 25. For a time, those rulers prevail against them. Their suffering has a fixed, limited, or is fixed and limited, determined by God, verse 25. Eventually, judgment is rendered in their favor, verse 22. They ultimately receive and possess the kingdom forever, verses 18 and 27. There is some information about an arrogant ruler. We kind of been focusing on the first part of the vision, but the second part where it's
Little horn.
the little horn is given more detail. What do we know about the arrogant ruler?
You shall persecute the saints of the Most High.
That's in verse 21 and 25.
He's gonna be directly against the most.
Yes. This ruler opposes God directly. Yep.
And the saints shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and appetite.
His power lasts only for a limited, defined period of time. What that is, you don't know. It's a time, and half a time.
I don't know what this means, but it says he will intend to make alterations in times and in law.
Yeah, that's in verse 25. Law we can kind of see. I think that happens all over the place. Everyone's coming up with their own law. But times, now that's pretty unique. That's pretty interesting. So what does that mean? You know, it's not really stated, but we do know that it does. What do we know about the final outcome? You're gonna look in verses like 12, 14, 26, and 27 for this. What is the final outcome of all of these things that transpire?
Going to be judged.
Yep.
Everlasting. At the end, all is sorted.
In the end, every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. The Son of Man is going to reign. Kingdom is universal in scope, and it is eternal. And the saints will be given authority. They'll be given positions of leadership, and they will be restored. Now let's talk a little bit about things we cannot know. This is helpful, I think, because sometimes we don't like to admit, it's kind of hard to confess that there's things we don't know. I have basically 2 or 3 distinct things that are consistent throughout that we don't know. One of them is identity. So what are some things that we just don't know the identity of in this? From this text, I should say.
Exact names and times of the kingdoms.
Yeah, so the historical identities of the 4 kingdoms, unknown. The identity of the 10 kings, we don't know. We don't know the identity of the arrogant ruler, the little horn, we don't know. The identity of 3 kings who are subdued, we don't know. The identity of the Son of Man, from this text alone, we don't know. And the identity of the saints. That's kind of a general term, but from this text alone, it doesn't give us any specifics about who that is, just says the saints. What about things like symbolism in this? What are some symbolic things that we don't know? I mentioned them already, but someone see if you can point them out. Exactly. So the wings being plucked off is one. Most of these things will have to do with the 4 kingdoms, the great beast. What are some other things? The wings.
The beasts were described as animals that we are familiar with, but kind of surreal with the extra wings and.
Yeah, so like, why use one beast rather than another? Is there any significance to that? We don't know. Why a lion? Why a bear? Why a leopard? We don't know.
The morphing of a lion into a man after the wings are plucked off, but all of a sudden he's on 2 feet and he's given a human mind.
Yeah.
Feet like a man. Why?
Oh, that's an odd thing to describe. So what is the significance of that? Doesn't say. Ribs. Why ribs? I mentioned this also that he's up on one side. Why is it? I don't know. It's kind of a peculiar detail. We don't know. What else don't we know? This is liberating, isn't it? Isn't it kind of like take the load off? It's not our responsibility to understand everything in this. There's some things we just simply can't know, and that's okay. Pastor Bruce. Sorry, Jim, you go next.
What of the 10 horns?
Yeah, what are the horns? We know they're kings, but I mean, why horns? But it's like kind of an odd thing. What's going on there? What else?
The timing for any of it. In terms of when, for each of the transitions,
Yeah,
and when the final consummation will come.
right. So I have identity is one thing that I was symbolic meaning is the second, and then chronology. Chronology / duration is completely unknown. The exact historical timing of these kingdoms, the gaps or overlaps between their reigns, historical moment when the final kingdom begins, the precise length and times and time and half time. Are we at a soccer game? What's going on? We don't know.
I guess there would be a time of some part of this lesson that you would highlight to us what we can learn from this.
I think one of the things we can learn from this, and this is about all I plan to say on that, is that you remember when the most prophesied individual of all history came, how many people truly were expecting him? Who was the person? Who was the one man truly expecting him? Well, John the Baptist, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry, but I mean, he had a little bit of help. Though. I don't think he quite counts. You're totally right, though. There's one guy though, absent the Holy Spirit indwelling in the womb. Who is it?
Zachariah.
Simeon. Simeon was expecting Christ. He was waiting for the Messiah, and he was looking for it. How many of the Pharisees, when they have all of these prophecies in the Old Testament, they are completely, they're completely lost at putting things together and capability to totally understand all of the prophecies. Even though looking back, we can say, well, look how explicitly clear that was. Look how uniquely, profoundly obvious. And we like to say, well, that's so clear and that's so profound. But the truth is that these things are as clear as they were meant to be. And so the author of this, Daniel, who's writing it down, he's fighting for you guys. He's like, we can't just know that one little 2 little verses in the mid, verses 16 to 17, or I'm sorry, 17 and 18. We got to know more. We got to have a little bit more clarity, a little bit more detail. And so the guy standing by him says, okay, I'll tell you a little bit more about the beast and the horns and that. But Daniel's right there with all of you who wants more answers, right? Wants more clarity. And it simply isn't the time yet for us to understand a lot of these things, which makes my job easy. And if you want to mention something.
Reading this, I can't help but think Daniel cannot get away from one more dream, one more king that is just full of himself and not learning a lesson, and also the kingdom. And it's like, okay, guy's gonna be puffed up, we're not gonna do this, but then you can say, but you're God, it's a God. Let's make everybody worship him, and it's like, here we are in years again. Having the kingdom mentioned and someone who's puffed up, then what's gonna happen in light of that? Like, you just cannot get away with it. Sometimes you hear certain Christians say like, oh no, I'm hearing this one thing he has puffed on all the time. Or Daniel, you cannot get away from that at all. It's just part of his life, that repeated.
Sure, they gotta stay home.
Yeah.
And we have one more thing that I want to get to before we're done for today. Would you mind handing these out? You can have my cheat sheet now. I think, unless it's quick, we should probably wait, save it, because I only have 5 minutes.
I'll talk to you after.
Oh,
I
perfect.
have questions.
Yeah.
I was nagged at about chapter 7.
No problem. We'll get to it, I promise. And I will actually get to you this time, because I know the last time I didn't. I'm sorry for that. So what's one thing we can know for sure from appropriate biblical correlation? Some people will try to get more information about the 4 beasts from chapter 2. Some people will try and figure out more about the little horn, and they have suspicions about what that could be. And I just don't know if that's nearly as important as this last thing. So the one thing that we can know from appropriate biblical correlation is the identity of the Son of Man. And I've listed for you, I don't know if that's all of the verses that bring this to light, but this is a lot of them. This is very helpful, I think. Would different people, just as you are sitting there and you have the gumption, please, I want to read through these. And I know we can go through all of them, but I think I want to at least do Psalm 2, 6 through 9. Someone read that. Just go ahead. Don't wait. Just go ahead.
I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill. I could tell of the decree. The Lord said to me, you are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage, and the ends of the earth your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron, and dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel.
Absolutely. Isaiah 9, 6 through 7.
For unto us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and of peace there will be no end. On the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this.
Very good. I'll read Matthew 26, 64. Jesus said to him, you have said so, but I tell you, from now on, you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power, coming from the clouds of heaven. There's a lot of other verses here. I'm going to skip to Philippians 2, 9 through 11. Therefore, God has highly exalted him. This is referring to Jesus, who humbled himself, and bestowed on him the name that is above every name, so that at the name of Jesus, every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of the Father. You can take the time on your own to read some of the rest of these, but I think the true conclusion to come from this text is realizing that though there are nations that rise, they will eventually fall. And though they have limited dominion, it will soon end. And though they persecute the saints, saints will be honored when the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords comes to reclaim dominion over the earth. That is not just the message of Daniel chapter 7, but it's something that has been communicated already through the narrative chapters 1 through 6. How many times did the pride of the nations become their downfall? And God reclaimed his sovereignty over them. And that even they spoke from their own lips the nature of God's kingdom, which is what? Eternal, everlasting, without it. So that's the hope that we have as Christians. That's the significance that we can truly walk away from. And that, unfortunately, if we could go down the road of thinking through all of the beasts and what does it mean and all that, but truly, what did the one who stood beside focus on? What did he say? He said in verses 17 and 18, these great beasts, which are four in number, are four kings who will rise from the earth. But the saints of the highest one will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, for all ages to come. We like Daniel like to focus on a lot of details, and it's interesting for sure. But this is the main point. This is what God is truly trying to communicate through all of these fantastic details. And so we should walk away. Let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the certainty